Syracuse football right now is 6-3. How many wins do you think the Orange are going to get to close the regular season?
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on this week's Pull Friday, on a Thursday, that's right, we're doing Pull Friday a day earlier this week. I'll tell you why later on in the podcast why we're doing it. But on this week's Pull Friday, I asked you guys the question, what's your new record prediction for Syracuse football to close out the regular season? I'm not counting what the outcome is going to be in a bowl game because you never know. Plus, we have no idea who Syracuse would play in a potential bowl game anyway. So just for the regular season, what is your record prediction? Right now, the Orange are 6-3. They got 3 games left in the regular season. They're at Cal this week. Then they got UConn at home and Miami at home to close out the year. Obviously, there are 4 potential outcomes for Syracuse. I don't think there's any sort of possibility of a tie anymore, right? You can't tie anymore. 4 choices: 6-6, 7-5, 8-4, 9-3. There were over 260 votes this week for this week's Poll Friday on a Thursday. And over 50% of you guys think that Syracuse will finish the year 2-1, which means their final record will be 8-4. In second place, which was about 35%, said 7-5, followed by about 10% saying 9-3. So that means they're running the table. And then finally, with about 1% of the vote, I really don't see this happening. It was 6-6, meaning they lose out from here on. I will disagree here with the majority on this. I have Syracuse closing the season now at 7-5. And it really boils down to how you feel about the game this week. If you think Syracuse football is going to beat Cal on the road this Saturday, and they're surprisingly an 8.5-point underdog in that one. I don't think the line is accurate, but still, they are underdogs on the road against Cal. If they beat them, you're looking at 8-4. If they lose, you're looking most likely at 7-5. I have Cal beating Syracuse this week, and I documented it on yesterday's podcast when I was previewing the Cal game. In summary, I think that Cal's defense is going to hold Syracuse to around 20-ish points. They're one of the best defenses in the ACC. And I really don't trust the Syracuse defense. And I have it being a really close game. I actually said on there, and I'm going to hold to it, I think Cal is going to win 27-24 on a walk-off field goal. That's my opinion on it. And if they lose to Cal with their schedule coming up, they're looking at 7-5. So that's my record prediction from here on out for Syracuse football. What do you guys think? Do you think Syracuse football is going to run the table? Do you think they're going to go 2-1, 1-2 like I think? Or are they going to go 0-3? I think that would be an absolute disaster because coming up after this, we're going to talk about the remaining 2 games after Cal and the game that they're most likely to win and the game that, well, they can beat Miami, but I don't think they're going to beat Miami. So that's what we're going to talk about after this. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. I mentioned that Syracuse football is an 8.5-point underdog at Cal with the money line now at plus 240. Now, I think that Syracuse football is going to lose this game, but 8.5-point road underdog to Cal, I think that line is a little bit extreme. You think that Syracuse can cover, or better yet, pull off the upset? Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Basketball season has arrived, and whether it's the NBA, college, Syracuse basketball, it's always exciting to go to games, and the way I get tickets for games is by using Gametime. Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. My favorite feature is the curated deals. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Whatever you want. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. When looking at Syracuse's schedule after the Cal game, obviously there's only going to be 2 games left for Syracuse football in the regular season. We're not counting the bowl game because we have no idea who they're going to play. And plus, bowl games nowadays with all the opt-outs and the transfer portal, it's like a brand new team that you're watching in bowl games. So I'm not going to try to predict that one. Let's just go by the regular season. Again, I have Syracuse football finishing the year now 7-5, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, your new record prediction for Syracuse football to close out the year. After the Cal game, they got UConn the following week, and this is by far and away the most winnable game left on Syracuse's schedule. Now, I do think that UConn might be a little bit better than we thought, that they might be actually a tougher opponent than originally anticipated. And the reason why I might think this now is because UConn has played a couple of ACC opponents this year. Not the world beaters of the ACC. I mean, they played Duke and they've played Wake Forest, but in those games, they've been very competitive. They lost by 5 at Duke. They lost by a field goal against Wake Forest. So UConn, also a 7-win team right now, bowl eligible, could be a little bit more challenging than we thought. That being said, I am still very confident that Syracuse wins this game in a couple of weeks against UConn. So if you're following along now, I have Syracuse losing to Cal. I have them then beating UConn. So now they're at 7-4, which sets the stage for the final game of the regular season, which is Miami at home. Miami is beatable. They are beatable, okay? And the game is at home, which works in Syracuse's favor. Miami is a team that we saw lose to Georgia Tech last week. They also nearly lost to Virginia Tech. They should have definitely lost to Cal, but Cal blew that game. 20-plus point lead in the fourth quarter, and they somehow found a way to lose it. Miami is beatable. But I think most of us still would be in agreement that if Syracuse were to pull off the upset, it would be a pretty big upset. It would be. That's just being honest. Miami is a really good team. They control their own destiny right now for the ACC title, and they control their own destiny for the college football playoff. They got a Heisman frontrunner in Cam Ward. Their offense is elite. It might be the best offense in the entire country. Now, their defense is really where their question is. And I think Syracuse is going to be able to put up points on that defense. The question now, and we're still 2 weeks away from this game, is can the Syracuse defense hold Miami down? Because it's very easily that type of game where if Syracuse's defense is not on their A game, Miami could put up 50 points. They really could. That's how good they are, at least on offense. Miami is beatable, more beatable than I thought they would be maybe a month or two ago. But it's still a game that, if you're asking me right now who I think would win, I have to be honest. I have to pick Miami in this one. That's what my gut is telling me. That's what my head is telling me. That being said, Miami is going to have everything on the line. Everything. They have everything to play for. If they win that game, they're in the ACC title. If they lose, they're probably out. Looking at how the schedules are shaping out right now, they're probably out. Sometimes pressure can work for you. Sometimes it can work against you. And that'll certainly be a topic of discussion for Miami week in a couple of weeks. But as of right now, I would pick Miami to win that game, which means if Syracuse football loses to Cal on Saturday, and then everything that we expect to happen happens, right? They beat UConn, then they lose to Miami to close the year. Then Syracuse football, right now at 6-3, finishes 7-5. If you're bummed about my opinion, I understand. I don't think you want me to say that I think Syracuse football is going to finish the year 7-5. I get it. If you're bummed by it, well, here's the silver lining for you. There's a reason why they play the games. You got to play the games. It's all fun and dandy doing all these record predictions and everything, but at the end of the day, they got to play. The score for every game starts at 0-0. At least that's what I think. Last time I checked. So, Syracuse football, it's up to them if they want to handle their business or not. I agree with you guys that the most likely two outcomes are 7-5 or 8-4. And I also do agree with you guys that running the table is much more likely than losing out. So that's where I'm at. I think I just disagree with the majority that think 8-4. I'm with the 35% that are at 7-5. So that's where I'm at. Leave a comment in the comment section below your new record prediction for Syracuse football. As far as what is coming up on the rest of the podcast, ACC squad episode, it should be out right now. If it's not, I'll leave a comment in the comment section below when it'll be out, but it should be out right now. So be sure to check that out after watching this. Tomorrow, Kyan Anthony, he is making his college decision at 7 p.m. Eastern, and there will be a full podcast reaction to that. That is why we're doing Poll Friday on Thursday this week, because we're going to have a full podcast tomorrow, good or bad. And then Saturday, we got 2 full post-game podcasts coming your way because there's a basketball game against Youngstown State, and then there's a football game against Cal, which we talked about. So that's what's coming up on the podcast in the future. Now, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this video, click that like button. If you really liked it, subscribe to the channel, turn on those notifications so you know right away when I am dropping the next podcast. And everyone, take care.